man. You guys are fucking quiet out there. I can't hear you, man. So you guys want to do some singing tonight or what? You guys want to do some singing? All right, you got the album Kill 'Em All? Okay, we're getting somewhere. Well, this is a fucking song where everyone gets like fucking hella together and gets as loud as they fucking want to. All right! This one goes something like Seek and Desiree.
Terry used to go to play.
I used to go to all the blues clubs and I used to go to the soul clubs. I think that's the first time we ever seen each other because they used to have all-nighters in town up in Birmingham.
Take speed and stay up all night and go home and pretend you're tired and lie awake in bed looking at the ceiling all day.
And they didn't finish till like 8 o'clock in the morning. And then there just happened to be, cause they used to be on a Saturday night, and this one Sunday morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, I was walking down one side of the road going home. And he was on the other side, and I had my hair down there, and he had his skinhead thing looking over with daggers before we'd even met. It's funny.
What kind of records did they play in blues clubs at that time?
Mainly like John Lee Hooker and Big Bill Bruns, all that sort of stuff. It was, you know, folk stuff, and then you got the electric, a lot of the John Mayall, Savile Brown, all that sort of stuff.
While I was listening to Gino Washington and the Ranger and Band in a wild time. It's kind of funny because, I mean, when I joined the blues band, I was still bopping away like a soul band. And I remember him in the Red Room, his guitar player comes up to me and says, I say, you don't do that in this kind of band. Save it, you know. What do you mean? I could never stand still. I'd never stand with look. You got when you're in a blues band, you got to look a bit miserable and down. I could never do that to get into it. I suppose that's the way it developed, really. I mean, a bit of everything all rolled up into one, blues and soul and everything.
Sort of what you call surreal, but it's got elements of that in it. If you're into like the classical stuff and everything, there's a Dante's Inferno, right, where there's the River of Souls, where all these bodies are like actually trapped in the ice, with their heads and arms all coming out of the ice, and I think it's Virgil and the guide showing him round hell, actually walking on the river and looking at all the souls, the eyes looking at them through the ice, which is kind of interesting.
Eerie.
I showed that to Derek, who did. I've got this big illustrated thing by Gustave Doré of that, and it's got that picture in it. And I showed it to Derek, who does the artwork, and several years ago actually. And I think that might have been one of the origins of the idea.
The goat of Mendes. The devil himself.
I mean, the riff to Black Sabbath or anything like that, it's hardly so singing about love grows where my rosemary go down. It doesn't fit. It's heavy, so if it's heavy metal, it's what you call heavy metal, then you've got a pretty heavy lyric to it. And I suppose writing about the darker forces and the darker sides of whatever fits the music. I mean, you would hardly write about a love song to that kind of heaviness. I mean, throughout history, musicians, and I can't remember the name of the composer, but there was in the hundreds of years ago, one composer was looked upon as being too heavy for the time.
is basically a horror story about how the evil one, Satan, plans to rule by living off the blood of his enemies. All his betrayers are impaled in this cave, you know, with those, what are those icicles? What are they called?
Stalactites.
I'm not sure what they're called. They're like impaled on this cave, and their blood drips down, and it's shaping him, and it's making him stronger, and that he'll return and reign in blood.
Evil exists, but I wouldn't exactly say Satan exists, personally. I mean,
I don't even know about evil. It depends what you mean by evil. You know?
Well, I mean, you know,
bad things happen in the world,
well,
but you
yeah,
know,
but
if
you
you
class that as being evil to an extent.
Yeah, you do, but I mean, I don't think there's like some kind of supreme force. You know,
No, but you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't mean no.
Do you think anybody does who buys the records? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I did.
Yeah, when you're younger.
When I was into Venom, I thought I used to wear inverted crosses around my neck and things like that.
That's the unfortunate thing about, you know, when you're young and impressionable and you start listening to metal.
14, 13.
You tend to swallow anything the bands, you know, send out, and you know, thankfully, we've gone past that stage now.
Oh, yeah.
We're just purely, you know, interested in them for the music. We don't like go along with the image or the lyrics or anything anymore, because well, there's just no point. I mean, I'd like to think we've outgrown it a bit.
Well, I definitely outgrown it, I think.
Well, at this moment we're backstage at Donington. This is the dressing room area. All the porta cabins around us are where the band's accommodation are. Right behind us, to my left, is the Bailey brothers, who are the DJs compares for the day. Over to my left here, we have Halloween dressing room. And if we move around the corner a little bit, we have Iron Maiden, I hope. Yeah, Iron Maiden over here in the corner. And for the first time this year, for the kiddies, we've got a little play area, swings and paddling pool, trampoline, things of that nature. Behind us, in fact, exactly in the direction I'm walking now, we're going towards the Kiss dressing room area.
Achtung, Achtung.
We seem to have somebody talking German on the PA at the moment. I don't know what that's all about. Over to my right behind me is what we call the Colony Club, where basically the guests can watch on video what's happening during the day. If we move over this way, to my right, David Lee Roth area, who is not arrived yet. Didn't get in until, I think, something like 10 o'clock last night on Concord. Over in the far corner, I would hope Guns N' Roses, and they're on the way in at the moment. What we should do is have a walk over to the Iron Maiden dressing room, and you can see what it's like. Well, this is Iron Maiden's main dressing room. As you can see, it's quite nicely furnished. David Lee Roth, one member of his band, wants kosher salami. And it's a little bit of a struggle, obviously, being in the middle of Leicestershire, trying to find kosher salami. Not so bad on Stilton, but salami's a bit difficult.
We have been labelled with the thing, the Marshall is the rock and roll amplifier or the heavy metal amplifier, and that is purely because of the sound that it produces. The amplifiers at the time were more towards jazz or country western sound, which is a sweeter sound, and they wanted something thicker. I always call it dirty, but it's really a harmonic distortion.
So how do you feel when you hear that people saying that, you know, that electronically amplified sound can damage people's ears and so on?
Well, I think that's over-exaggerated, because the amount of guitarists I meet worldwide, and I meet all the top guitarists, they never say to me, "Pardon, what did you say?" They always hear what I say.
Every year I get me, you know, hearing tested, you know, for medical reasons and insurance and stuff, and it's fine, you know. So, and you know, everybody else is fine. Bruce's hearing is a bit dodgy, but that's because he used to do shooting, and he affected one of his ears from shooting pigeons or whatever he was doing, and I don't know, you know, with some sort of grouse shooting or something. I don't know what he was doing, but you know, so I really would say that it doesn't really affect you. I mean, obviously, if people, you know, come along and, you know, start sticking their head in the bass bins or something, you know, then, you know, I suppose that could have an effect. But in general, I would say that, you know, it doesn't really hurt.
Well, singing for Iron Maiden, obviously, we have all these people coming to a concert. They pay all this money. They expect to see something like special, not just kind of T-shirt and jeans anymore. And the whole thing, I suppose, started with bands like Jethro Tull and, of course, with Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. We've actually got some of their stage clothes here, which I'm going to show you now, which is fairly interesting. As a matter of fact, the same woman who made this jacket, I bought this second-hand, made these trousers. These are actually Jimmy Page's trousers, as worn on all manner of album covers with the... I think it's an astrological sort of symbol or some form of occult symbol that means his name in some sort of letters. I mean, but you can see this symbol on the backs of kids all over the country who've like put it on their denims and stuff like that, the same way that they put like Iron Maiden and things and everything. There's all these amazing jackets. I mean, they're really very sort of, you know, romantic and everything, and silky and absolutely lovely. I mean, funnily enough, we could never wear anything like this because our stuff, we sort of run around so much that basically we have to wear anything that's stretchy, extremely washable, and we tend to just pick stuff up from wherever we find it. Going completely away from English heavy metal, which tends to be a little bit haphazard, as you can probably imagine, to the real glitzy glamour stuff. This is stuff from Kiss. This is Gene Simmons' outfit with this amazing pair of boots, which really look like they belong in a fireplace as like guards. I just put them on the front gate and they'll scare away intruders. This is Gene Simmons' codpiece. I'm not going to attempt to wear this at all, except to say that we have discovered that it is in fact stuffed. I shall say no more. There are actually, codpieces are very popular. Codpieces started with Henry VIII and people like that, you know. A very popular thing, codpieces in those days. Whether it was to keep it warm or boast about your knightly prowess, I have no knowledge, but in rock and roll terms, I think it's purely to frighten young children. And Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull, with his medieval connections and things like that, when he was getting very woody in the old days. He used to wear a codpiece while he was standing on one leg twirling his flute and everything, which I thought looked rather wonderful. It didn't really have any particular sort of sexual connotation at all. It was much more theatrical. This thing, on the other hand, I think is definitely designed, as we say, to strike fear into the heart of somebody. There is an apocryphal story, actually, about a chap called Blackie Lawless, who plays for an American group called Wasp, who supported us on tour. He has one of these things. It actually has a plastic chainsaw blade that comes out of the front of it. And he has a firework inside, which, at a given signal from the appropriate whatever, I don't know if it's operated by somebody else. I think he operates it himself. The firework explodes, so you get this tremendous kind of, sort of, you know, pelvic thrusting with this thing, and sort of up goes the firework. It's very spectacular. In fact, there is one case on record when it exploded the wrong way with, I think he had to be taken off to sort of, not quite intensive care, but care anyway, somewhere. So anyway, there's quite a difference, as you can see, between like the American stuff and the English stuff. I think the English stuff tends to be more, much more sort of haphazard, more romantic in a way. This stuff is much more sort of showbiz, I guess, really. And I think that's the that's the main difference. I mean, basically, the English people just like mess everything up, you know.
It's two distinct, different approaches. There's a lot more castles here. There's a lot more of that kind of history here. There's a lot more history, period, here in this continent than there is in the United States. In the United States, probably was based more on Dodge City. You know, the whole thing of the cowboys and the streets and the guy who stepped out of line. I mean, who started the whole United States was people who were kind of stepping out of line, the Pilgrims, you know. And that approach is very pragmatic, something that's very practical and day-to-day. And that's what I reflect around myself.
Do you regard yourselves as similar in any ways to any of the other bands on the bill, or do you think that you're completely...
Maybe only in attitude in some of them. I mean, Ross done all kinds of material. I like Kiss in their early days. You know, I think the only thing that we have in common with Kiss now is that, you know, they like to make money and they like girls, but as far as their music go, you know, basically their music's like second fiddle to their other desires. Our music comes first.
Have you got anything in common with Iron Maiden?
I hope not.
Why?
I don't know, they're not, I mean, they're nice guys, but, you know, it's like political organizations, you know, your band's like a political thing. And your music or your album's kind of like your political stance. Well, theirs is completely different than ours, and I think theirs doesn't have anything to do with rock and roll as far as I'm concerned. We're a rock and roll band.
Yeah,
what they do is what they do. I don't know what it is, and I hope to never be like that. Hope it's not catchy.
Izzy, were you going to say something there?
No.
No. Don't you feel that this goes somewhat against the idea of a rock and roll lifestyle?
Yeah, I always hated the rock and roll lifestyle anyway.
Why?
Well, it seemed to be quite dull, really. You know? So, I mean, I think there were certain aspects of it which were quite attractive initially. You can't do that now because you die. So, but all the drugs and stuff, I mean, I was never ever into that because I just had too much fun on my own without it. So I'm having fun now, and that's great, isn't it? What are we up to? 142. I think I can honestly say my legs are going to fall off before my heart gets up to 150.
You have to be fitter being in a sort of hard rock or heavy metal band than in a pop band. I mean, do you think that people like Rod or
I have no idea. Don't take any notice of Bros anyway. As far as
can see they don't actually do anything. Apart from stand around and look suntanned and put lots of earrings through their noses. I mean, that's about it.
It's about God, about the system of things, about getting to work on time, about paying your bills, about having feelings, about being kind, about not being kind. You know what I'm talking about? Julia! Well, for those of you that don't, we'll give you one more clue with the bass guitarist, David Ellison.
I had a letter from some kid in
Peru, and
Peru.
also, yeah, I get a lot of mail from Poland, actually.
Yeah, I get quite a lot
which is
from
quite
Poland.
strange. Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia as well, I think, actually. I don't know anyone in Russia, but I know people who do correspond with a couple of people in Russia. God, where else? Chile.
There's actually some good death metal bands in Chile.
Yeah.
Some really good ones.
And like Shane said, in Brazil, the scene is pretty
Brazil,
massive.
in
For
Brazil,
death
it's just
metal, not so much hardcore death metal scene
Brazil.
is massive in Brazil.
It's totally, it's millions and millions.
There's just a
of
glut
bands.
of bands. There's far too many, in fact, in Brazil.
there
Because
is.
some of them are serious garbage, really, but there are a few that are very good indeed.
ってトラブルっていうのはないんだけど、両親とかすごい理解してくれたけど、やっぱり周りの全然ヘビーメタル知らない子たちがオカマだとか
当時高校生の時に、高校は制服ですよね。制服で髪が長いんですよ。電車とか乗ったりするとやっぱり後ろ指をさされたり白い目で見られたりします。
僕は喧嘩した時によく捕まりましたね。
Yeah, you went from your Led Zeppelin, that's right, to Gary Glitter and all the glam rock. And then there was a new wave of British heavy metal which got bands like Def Leppard and Saxon, Motorhead and that. And then that sort of like fizzled out, and along was the punk, and that did much the same, that died out, sort of thing. And then people getting bored, and there was a byproduct of heavy metal and punk called thrash metal. Includes all your death and your hate and your speed and power metal or whatever you want to call it, all in there.
But what makes thrash metal different?
What, from heavy metal?
Yeah.
Or just a lot faster. I mean, a lot of people think it's just like a wall of noise hitting you, you know. What the hell's that? And then they're going 10 to the dozen, you know. You can't play Iron Maiden at 400 miles an hour. Of course you can.
Is it better when it's faster?
I do, yeah. I like fast music or really heavy music. If it's going to slow it down, it's got to be really heavy. And something that really picks you up and throws you to the other side of the room, you know.
Rock City, the thrash hour, I don't think I've ever seen a single girl actually dancing to that. Do you find that disturbing at all, or have you ever felt tempted to dance to that yourself?
A couple of times I have. Nuclear Assault, when Nuclear Assault comes on, yeah, I'd like to go down there. But I have been down to Motorhead one time.
Yeah. The only woman on the dance floor at Nottingham for Motorhead on one occasion. Claim to fame.
Did you find that scary at all?
No, I just heard the music, and you know, I felt the urge to go down, and that's all, you know.
But to be surrounded by men in that way, did you find that at all disturbing, or?
No, it adds to the adds to the flavour, sort of thing. Good fun.
Do you think that in general it's it's boys' music rather than girls' music? I mean, why do you think that there aren't as many girls interested in it?
I think there are quite a few girls that are interested in it. You see quite a few girls go around with thrash groups on T-shirts on their on the bodies and that, and I do know a few others that are interested in it, so it's not just, you know, men, everybody's sort of into it. So they go.
What do you think about that, Mitch?
Great, the more the merrier. No, don't care who likes it, and if they like it, stand up for it. Me too.
Judgment day is second coming, arise. Before you see the light, you must die.
I mean, not even Slayer, they're considered to be the most extreme, you know, whatever, thrash metal band, and there's certain speeds they won't exceed, ever. You know, it's kind of like they've set themselves certain limits and they're never going to, you know, I think Necrophobic, that's probably their fastest track. I don't think they'll go faster than that. There's also certain rules with production and so on, and guitar sounds.
Definitely so, yeah.
And, you know, like, for example, it would sound ridiculous if we adopted the Anthrax guitar sound. You know, the really squeaky, clean, crunchy sound that they've got. And
the vocals as well.
Yeah, the vocals, that's probably one of the main
things. Like, you know.
Vocal style is very different. I mean, if people...
Even if we slow down to something like Death Speed all the while, we're still with Lee's vocals, we'd still be regarded as totally over the top because like Lee's vocals are just, you know.
I mean, people say they can't understand the lyrics of metal bands, but I think, you know, that if they heard Napalm Death, I think they'd begin to appreciate that, like, most metal bands' lyrics are pretty easy to understand because, you know, the vocal style is much clearer than ours.
In music, though, you've got an extreme guitar sound, an extreme bass sound. I mean, the bass in the eye of, like, you know, no band would really sort of go for, really, because, I mean, you know, distortion box and things like that. There's like really fast drumming, really over-the-top vocals. It's like everything in the band is totally extreme. That's the way it's got to be, really. A lot of people just like do you know, form a band and make noise and
doing it for the sake of it, and the gruff vocals and the screaming vocals. And yeah, Napalm Death, we want to do it like that. So
it's just, you know, it's you know, we do play notes, we do play music. People don't understand that.
To be honest with you, I don't really listen to that much metal because I just don't. I mean, I listen to other things. I listen to Peter Gabriel. I do like Guns N' Roses, however. That's the only thing. But a lot of these American I mean, everything's under the thing of being metal, and the way they perceive it now. If you've got long hair, a guitar, and tight spandex pants, you're metal, and that's not the case. Because it's getting so confused. They're starting the speed metal, death metal, gay metal, you know, whatever metal. You know, it's all different aspects of the one thing, and it got so confusing for me. I don't know what the bloody hell it's all about anymore.